Welcome back, everybody. I'm Tom with Sideline Fans. Thank you. This is our fourth night in a row. We're going to be on tomorrow night as well. But before we go into hockey goalies unveiled, unleashed, whatever I called it, I wanted to sort of tease tomorrow night's show. We will be voting for the All-Star game using a ballot from 1977. Yes, you heard it right. We are going to be going through a 1977 baseball all-star ballot, picking who we would select for the team. And then we will be talking about who actually started for the American League and the National League in 1977. So before we move on to the goalies, I want to just bring up two things. Please, while you're watching this, hit that like button. And if you're not subscribing, hit that subscription button. Would love to have you watch more of these videos as we move along. So, first, I want to take you to the first card that we're going to be going through tonight. This is Jacques Plante. He is a goalie that was in the 50s, 60s, and a little bit into the 70s. He's called the innovator because he is the first goalie to use a mask day in and day out in the NHL. The first season he wore the mask was in the 1959-1960 season. Again, I used the language very carefully. He wasn't the first goalie to wear a mask. He was the first goalie to make it something that was a day-to-day tool for the goalies, which is now a must. They have to wear it by rules. But in 1930, the Montreal Maroons goalie by the name of Clint Benedict had a broken nose and used some sort of leather contraption over his face as a goalie mask. My guess is it was a piece of leather cut into like an oval with some straps on it to cover his face while he had this broken nose. Is just my guess. But Jacques Plante actually decided to put together or make the mask because he had just had surgery for his sinuses. And again, he wore it the first time in 1959, 1960. And he then wore it so that it could be used every day. And let me take this card off. And we're moving to Wayne Stevenson, who was a Blues goalie in the early 70s. Now, what's interesting about his mask is if you notice, it's almost like a piping or a cable. Now, I know that in the 70s, they used what I would consider cables, almost electric cords kind of thing, to wrap the end of their hockey sticks. My guess is that Wayne used something like that, maybe put some tape around it and to hold it all together and to make this mask, because as you can see right through the mask, almost like a catcher's mask in baseball. But it covered areas, or it made sure the puck wouldn't go through. So the areas that weren't covered were not wide enough or large enough so that a puck would come through right there. So that's Wayne Stevenson in the early 70s with the St. Louis Blues. Now, the next, and I can almost put it on together, but I won't. The next goalie is, I might be butchering the name here, but it's Cesar Maniago. And it looks like he has another crude mask, almost a skeleton looking mask, if you see, with some open spaces near the mouth and very large openings around the eyes. So very skeleton looking. My guess is that it might be some sort of piping, almost like the one we saw with Wayne Stevenson, that might have been taped over or used several pieces of piping or cable to cover that mask. So that is Cesar Maniago of the former Minnesota North Stars. All right, next. Now we move into the mid 70s where masks sort of took their look, and a lot of horror movies and Halloween costumes took it here. This is Bernie Parent with the Philadelphia Flyers. Obviously, we see here now in the mid 70s that the goalie mask is all one piece. It's plastic usually, with some straps in the back. But what's interesting about this is compared to the other goalie masks that we just looked at, Jacques Plante's, Wayne Stevenson's, these crude sort of masks. While this might look somewhat crude, it does right here. If you can see my pencil right there, there is a logo of the Flyers right there. So we can see the early beginnings of what would take shape, currently for the mask, where we have logos, where we have designs, and all of that kind of good stuff, slowly taking shape in the mid 70s. All right, so now we move on to another Blues goalie. I'm going to butcher his last name, although I shouldn't. Ed Staniowski. Now, you can't see it from this shot, um, but he has a Blues logo on his mask, and I believe that on the other side, so what would be this is our left side viewing on the right side of us viewing it would be a Blues logo in the more familiar tradition of a Blues logo. Now he's using, as we can see here, a Sherwood stick. Now Sherwood is still around. They don't have the hyphen anymore. It's all one word, and they're very trendy and very popular. But I'm sure that this stick is probably about 10 times the weight of the current sticks in the NHL for goalies. Moving on right now, we have Pete Lepresti. He is a goalie with the North Stars. A lot of North Stars and Blues goalies here. But as you can see, now he's using a Northland hockey stick, and I'll get to that in a second. Well, actually, I'll just tell you. Northland, sort of its claim to fame was that was a stick that Wayne Gretzky started with. And currently, the Gretzky Foundation has a deal with Northland. They're probably owned by some parent company now because it's Northland Christian sticks together, or Christian hockey that are together. So they're under one umbrella. And then if you look at his mask, it's very, very interesting in so much as it's almost like you have his eye hole, but then you have this huge area that covers what would be most of, I guess, his forehead and into his hair. So a very crude element. But as you can see with some of the other goalies, we're looking at brown pads. We're looking at brown pads. With Jacques Plante, brown pads. Here's the blocker with no holes. And then in the in the mid 70s, we have the holes in the blocker. All right. So moving on to the late 70s, early 80s, we see Dave Dryden here, whose brother was the famous goalie Ken Dryden. Um, he again has the brown pads. I can't make out the stick. Maybe it's a Northland, but as you can see, compared to like Bernie Parent and the Blues goalie, there's more design coming now in this helmet for the Oilers. There's more. It's much more than just a simple little logo. It's more of a design on the helmet. So you'll be seeing more of that with some of these goalies. And of course, just as I say that, we go to Tony Esposito, who I think had almost nothing on his mask. I had a Tony Esposito mask as a kid growing up, and it was just a piece of plastic with some rubbery straps in the back. But again, we're looking at brown pads, but the goalie mask is pretty much what we would see in the late 70s, early 80s. Not much design to it. Now, one of the more interesting masks during this time was that of Mike Liut, the Blues goalie. And it almost was that duck look from the Anaheim Mighty Ducks when they started. I mean, if you just take this bill and put it out a little bit, it's a mirror image of, I think, of what that Anaheim Mighty Ducks, or the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim logo was when they started, and obviously during the movie. So very interesting there. It's a Northland stick. I had told you that Northland got its claim to fame because that was the stick that Gretzky started with, and currently the Gretzky Foundation has some deal with them, so they contribute to minor hockey or junior players or something. But then we're looking at brown pads again. So this is the early '80s, and then we kind of jump here, and because that's the way it looked for quite some time. And then we move into where the goalies usually had a helmet like Mike Richter's helmet here, but it wasn't designed. And towards the late '80s, early '90s, mostly the late '90s, we started to really look at the goalies lost those brown pads and they had designs on the helmets again. It wasn't just a white helmet or a blue helmet or a black helmet. It was a design. And here's Richter's famous Statue of Liberty. He's using a Vic hockey stick. Vic was Vic is short, or it changed to Vic Hockey, but before that it was Victoriaville Hockey, Canadian company, but they shortened their name, I think, in the '80s. And he has the Vaughn pads, which so many goalies use now. So we now have moved away from the brown pads that the goalies wore, and we have colorful pads, colorful glove, colorful blocker. And Vaughn, which is a company that started in 1982, its CEO and founder was Mike Vaughn. So it's named after their founder. And here, now you may not recognize it right away, but this is Patrick Waugh's helmet from the early '90s. Relatively simple compared to a lot of the designs of today. However, beyond just the logo, the Canadiens logo, we have a sort of a facsimile of the logo with 33, his number in there, but fully painted. So the '80s, we moved away from those solid color helmets like this into these with painted design. I'll just be sharing some goalies here, and I'm going to butcher some of the names, but this is Sean Burke, obviously with the Devils. Again, we look at the blocker, Louisville. That's Louisville Slugger, I believe, with the stick. Um, Color in all of their pads, glove, the helmet. You can see that it's a devil with horns. You can see the horns coming out right here in the black. So they're getting much more ornate as the years go on. We're in the '90s, early '90s right now. Now, this next goalie, I did create a short on Clint Melarchuk. Now he was just in the same time of the other goalies that I talked about, but he has the brown pads. So, but they do have some color to them. They are Vaughn, which started in '82. It's a Vic Hockey, which was Victoriaville. He has some looks like it might be a buffalo or something like that in here because you can kind of see horns. But his unfortunate, infamous claim to fame is the fact that during a game against the St. Louis Blues, a player in front of him fell, and this is before that, I believe, cut his throat essentially with their blade, and he was pretty much, unfortunately, on the fence of possibly bleeding out if it wasn't for the Buffalo Sabre trainers who did that. So, and Liam, I don't know if you're still watching. You said, I love the Flyers. Uh, Everybody's got their favorite team. The Flyers are a great team. Love their colors. The Broad Street Bullies or whatever it was. Master Melon, love it. Love the fact that you find it interesting. And I have a few other things that I want to point out here. Now, some of these are a little repetitive. Louisville stick. Let me put my glasses on. I don't see any name on the pads, but the helmets are getting better. I don't have too many. It's just a buffalo. That's what it was. It's just a buffalo, really, on the helmet with some of the colors. But kind of the other thing I want to point out is, have you ever watched an NHL game where you see older pads like this anymore? It seems like every goalie, their pads in every game or they're either brand new or it looks like they've been used maybe once. There might be one black mark on them. So I guess nowadays they probably almost get new pads, or maybe you can clean the pads on a regular basis. This is Tom Barrasso. He has the all white pads. I guess Heaton. I did not research that, but he has penguins on both sides of his helmet there, and I think if you look underneath here, there's a little bow tie, or it looks like that area underneath. Yeah, it's like a tuxedo coming up, collar with a little bow tie. So they're getting more and more impressive during the 90s. This one is very fun. If anybody who's fans of the Phillies, this is Dominic Roussel. If you notice, the Flyers logo has sort of an eye in it. It almost looks like a sea serpent or some sort of beast or animal. Kind of an interesting look to that design. So very, very neat that way. And we had talked about Sherwood sticks earlier and how much lighter the sticks are. Sherwood, of course, got rid of that hyphen, but they are still a brand. Vaughn, which started in 1982, we talked about that. This is another penguin theme. I think all of the penguin goalies really go after that penguin theme. So this is Frank Petrangelo. All right, let me just go through some of the cards here to jump up. Okay. I'm going to butcher his name, and I apologize for that in advance. Let's see if I can get. Okay. Gar- let's look at this person's name. I can say his name. I know his name. Garth Snow. And he has Heaton on, so that must be. I did not research them. I apologize. I researched Vaughn, but not Heaton pads. He's using a Christian stick. And I don't know if anyone who's watching right now knows sort of the backstory behind the Christian sticks. They went out of business in '09. They're back in business. They're owned by some conglomerate or investment bank with they're owned with Northland Sticks and Christian Sticks. But Christian Sticks started I think after in the 60s, I want to say. Christian Sticks, there's a total backstory behind this, okay? Christian Sticks were started by Bill and I want to say Doug. No, let's see. Let's get the names right here. Da, da, da. No, Bill and Roger Christian were both hockey players and won gold medals at the 1960 US Olympics that I think might have also been at Lake Placid. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it was on US soil. So they won gold medals. In 1956, their brother Gordon won a silver medal for the Olympic hockey team. So in 56, the uncle, well, I'm sorry, Gordon won a silver. In 60, Bill and Roger won golds. And shortly thereafter, Bill and Roger and someone named Hal Backey started the Christian Brothers Hockey Company in, sorry about that, War Road, it was hard for me to say, Minnesota. And what's interesting is, so Bill had a son named David. Dave Christian was a NHL player for, I want to say 15 years, and he won a gold medal at the 1980 Olympics for the USA team. So the uncle and the dad won gold in 60. Hi there, Clayton. How are you? Sorry about that. I was just looking at some notes. Sorry, I missed your first one. What's up? We are just going over some hockey stuff, and the Christian stick I'm just showing here. The Dave Christian was on the '80 Olympic team. His dad and his uncle won gold medals in the 1960 Olympics, and his other uncle won a silver in the '56 Olympics. So quite a great name in hockey sticks. They went away in '09, the Christian sticks, but they're back together now. Let's look at some other helmets that we have. I'm just kind of cutting through here. Here's one of Grant Fuhr with the Blues. Have a lot of Blues players because I'm in St. Louis, obviously, but a relatively simple design. If you look, it's just the Blues logo on the left and the right side. I'm trying to see what's under his chin, just his name right there, which sometimes you see in a lot of the current hockey, the current hockey masks and things like that. But that is now, that was one of the ugliest jerseys I thought the Blues had. I hated the red, but now it's now retro and everybody loves it in St. Louis. But I'm still not quite a fan. Here we go with a name that I Don Bipre. Beaupre. I'm sure it's French. Now he's using the Vaughn pads, which we talked about, the Christian sticks, all USA, made in Minnesota, a bunch of gold medal winners, 1960, 1980. But if you notice, this is the early 90s. And what's happening here is we're getting really ornate with the design. This is obviously the national capital. It's the Washington capital. So obviously, there's a direct correlation. A lot of the goalies for the Capitals have this kind of theme, but really, really great looking design on these helmets at this time. So, just wanted to show you that one. Now there's another one here. This one's kind of neat. It's Tim Chevelday. Tim Chevelday. What's neat about this is you can see the wings of the Red Wings right here. And I want to say that there might be, maybe it's a Detroit flag. I don't know what the city flag is. I don't think that's a Michigan flag. But you can see the wings from their logo, which is a really cool look. Again, he's wearing the Vaughn pads, which I think most goalies wear nowadays. Going through a couple other ones here. This one's interesting. I don't know that I've ever seen this one. This is Stefan Fissette. With the Quebec Nordiques, who I believe are no longer around. But if you notice, he has all of these like scales on his helmet. Very interesting. It looks like he has a fleur-de-lis on the front to bring back the French of the Quebec. Very interesting mask, if you will. I have not seen that. And he is using a Vic hockey stick. Trying to find the one. All right. Here's one that's pretty ornate. Has a Titan stick, Vaughn pads, but if you notice, he has the Canucks design all over the helmet. Very powerful looking helmet. And this is, again, the early 90s. This is Mike Fontaine or Fountain. I'm assuming it's Fontaine. But it's almost like a little tornado right here on the top of that. So it's a pretty ornate for the early 90s kind of helmet. I'm still looking for the one I can't. Where is? Oh, there it is. Okay. This is Jim Carey, who is with the Capitals. And rather than going with that that whole look of the nation's capital, it looks like he has bricks in there. And I'm going to show you another shot of this helmet from another card that my guess is, and I didn't get to look this up before I left, but maybe his name was the brick wall, or maybe he thought of it as the brick wall. A lot of times, be a brick wall. Don't let the puck past you. My guess is it has something to do with the bricks on his helmet. But if you look at this white area right here at the top or the front of the helmet, and you look at this card, you'll notice it almost looks like the original mask. I keep saying helmet. I apologize. Almost looks like the original mask by Jacques Plante. It has sort of that weird nose, although there's a bigger opening on this one, but the eyes, it looks like an original or an early kind of mask that he has on, and then a brick wall behind it. So the message is loud and clear, be a brick wall. So let's see, what time are we got? Okay, I have him winning the 94 Cup framed in my room. Joseph, you have Jim Carey winning the 94 Cup? Is that who you have? Did he win the 94 Cup? Wow. Mark Messier is the greatest. Okay, yes. Well, Messier wasn't a goalie. But yes, he was one of the best players ever. So here's another one that, growing up in St. Louis, the Blackhawks were obviously one of our biggest rivals. And this is Eddie the Eagle Belfour. And again, early 90s. You can see Eddie. He's got his Christian hockey stick. We talked about that. A bunch of gold medals behind that name. But he's got a great eagle on his helmet, if you can see right there. And it's just really powerful, great artistic work. We can see with some of these helmets how they have evolved into the current helmets where there's so much going on and so much high quality work where it's not just a static sort of logo or one or two little images, but that they're really ornate and looking great kind of images. But that's Eddie the Eagle with the Blackhawks. I believe he won a Stanley Cup with the Dallas Stars, with Brett Hull and a few other people that had never won cups. Now here's one that Andre Risicot, um, with the Canadians. He has the Sherwood stick we talked about. They got rid of the hyphen, the Vaughn pads, which are very popular now, but he almost goes backwards with his helmet compared to the Eddie the Eagle that I just showed. You can see, well, maybe you can't. You can see his helmet is mostly white right here. And then you can see Eddie the Eagle's all red with the eagle in it right here. So very different with Andre's helmet right there. And here's another one of Tim Shovelday. And I think I had showed you before where he had the wings of the Detroit logo. And there seems to be, and I don't know, again, I don't know if this is the Detroit flag or is this mimicking, I don't think it's mimicking like a race flag, because why would they do that? They don't, I mean, Indianapolis has the races, although Detroit has the cars. So, but very ornate for the early 90s in Tim Shovelday's hat. A lot of things going on with the logo and the feathers and the different flags up top. I'm sure they all have very significant meaning. Let's see. Okay, here's one with a subtle nod to the Statue of Liberty. It's Mark Fitzpatrick with the Islanders. And if you can see very subtly, there's some white marks at the top of his helmet, and that mimics that crown that the Statue of Liberty wears. Just as a quick note, he's wearing the Vaughn pads, which are so popular even today. This again is the early 90s. And let's see, a couple more, and then I think I'll tease again tomorrow night. Here's kind of a fun one. One of the last years that, oh, sorry about that. And I've lost everybody because I didn't have my cards right. Sorry about that, everybody. Who's still on with us? Joseph. Yes. I don't know if Joseph's on with us or not, but okay. This is John Casey, who he has a Christian USA. He was a USA. He's a U.S. citizen, so maybe that's why they put the USA behind it. But it's the North Stars, so he really picks up the color, the yellow, the green stars. Just these uniforms, especially the ones without the black back in the day, like in the 80s, were just magnificent. And I think sometimes the Wild wears something similar to this. I know that the Dallas Stars have green, but they really never picked up that yellow after the first year or so that they were there. But his helmet, has a star on both sides, very bright color, great artistic work, very nice. So anyway, wanted to just, before I go, tease tomorrow night. Now, I know we were doing hockey tonight, but tomorrow night, the big event for tomorrow night is we are going to vote as if it's 1977. We're going to go through the ballots of the All-Star game, the baseball All-Star game ballots right here, as you can hopefully see. Yes. We're going to go through it. We're going to vote. And then we're going to see who actually started the game, and we're going to talk about that. And did we get the people right? Did we get them wrong? Why did we get them right? Why did we get them wrong? I'm sure most of us will be voting for all of the Hall of Famers, like I always like to look at. But we will be doing this tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. Before you go, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We'll be doing this again tomorrow with the 77 ballots. We'll be making our votes at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 o'clock Pacific. I'll be maybe changing the times next week for these kinds of things, but I look forward to speaking with everyone. Bye, Clayton. Take care, everyone. Good seeing you. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.